All right. So we took some meme lists to the Wasatch Open.
We didn't really do well.
I mean, was that the plan?
Yeah, fair enough.
But we also are gathering some data on it. So we want to talk about some of the findings that we found when we're looking at the Wasatch Open and kind of what it shows about Legion lists as a whole. I'm your host, Isaiah.
I'm Chris.
And this is Locked Loot.
We do not plunge headlong into folly on the orders of a single madman. Marines, deploy the gun!
He's got nukes.
You're the last boots on the ground.
Position standby for defensive fire.
Jedi. Like my father before me.
Ding! Vex on the field.
Attention on deck.
This channel is now under military control.
All right. So before we really get started, first would like to thank the tournament organizers, Josh and Matt from the 801st Legion, for organizing everything.
They did a really good job. Everything went smoothly.
Prize support was fantastic.
Yep.
I spilled some coffee. I'm sorry about that, guys. We got lucky there. I'm upset about that. We'll talk about that. Because it'll be a point of conversation about my coffee. Of course, we'd also like to thank Paragon Games for hosting it. They got a big community, and though they were double booked, we still got everything to run smoothly.
Which is surprising. It was very warm in there, though.
I didn't notice it as much. They opened the doors, so a lot of it came out. Yeah, so we'd like to thank all of you guys for hosting this tournament.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you're enjoying our content, please follow us wherever you're getting your podcasts.
Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
And check out our social media. Let's get on with it. All right, first we're going to talk about the lists we brought. We didn't do well in the tournament, but that was by design. We brought some dumb lists.
Yes.
Okay, so my list, I brought Kraken, a tactical droid, a bunch of B1s, a B2 with a HA, Magna Guards with their rocket launcher, and then a snail tank and some DSDs. I didn't do too well. I didn't expect to do very well. I wanted to just run the snail tank. It was my first time running a super tactical droid or a snail tank, so I kind of expected to do pretty badly there. I had some fun games, though. I played in my first game. It was a lot of fun. I played against an Imperial list. Imperial gun lines, Death Troopers, and all of that. Lost by 1 victory point, but, you know, I was able to get in there and really cause some havoc. DSDs are fun at range. I love the snail tank. Guys, if you haven't run the snail tank yet, don't sit on that snail tank. It may not be a competitively viable vehicle, but it is a whole lot of fun. Put some Haas in there, put some Magnas in there. Have a blast.
Yeah.
So that was my first round losing. I didn't do too well. What about you?
So I ran a Leia Sabine list, which also happened to be double airspeeder.
Okay, we talked about this. What was your full list?
So I had Leia with improvised orders, and then I had Sabine with her shield and the Darksaber, and then I had 3 Rebel Troopers, 1 with an Ion, 1 with a Z6, and 1 just naked. And then I had a Singleton. Yeah, there should have been 2. I know. And then I had double airspeeder. They both had the ground buzzer. They both had ground buzzers and hacked comms units, which are great on an airspeeder.
Okay, your first round. How did it go?
Terrible.
Okay, what happened?
So my whole problem with the tournament is this was built to be an anti-DSD list. I played against exactly 0 DSDs.
Yeah.
I got picked apart by snipers.
Yeah, going into this, we were expecting, like, Ion lists and DSDs. That's kind of what we were expecting. Armor and anti-armor.
What we got was a lot of snipers and dewbacks.
Yeah, my list did all right against dewbacks. I didn't have too many problems. But your list kind of struggled with dewbacks, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think the strategy with your list and dewbacks was just to sick the airspeeders on them.
Yeah, I tried that. But I couldn't fire on them because they were in melee with, Sabine.
Oh yeah, that's another.
The guy that I played against. This was like my 3rd round. He just sat there and chased Sabine around with the dewbacks.
I'm like, yeah. So they just played with Sabine essentially.
They played with Sabine, and it kind of neutered my entire list because that list revolved around getting Sabine in there as a distraction, and the airspeeder just converged on them.
I'm kind of surprised you had problems fighting with Sabine, because doesn't Sabine's lightsaber have pierce?
Yeah.
And impact?
Yeah.
So
his dewbacks were rolling very well.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah, that might be why I didn't have a problem against dewbacks, because the guy I played against with dewbacks, his dewbacks kind of didn't roll very well.
I think I killed a dewback by round 2.
Yeah.
But by then it was too late. He had already picked off all my
Yeah.
core.
Okay, yeah, so yeah, that happened first round. My first round, like, lost by 1 point on objectives. Second round, though, that was fun. I played against a triple dewback list,
Mm-hmm.
ISF. Turns out dewbacks and the snail tank don't mix. Because what happened was the dewbacks came forward. One flanked, I think it was a dual dewback, not triple dews. One came forward to rush at some squads of B1s with my Magna Guards on standby. And not standby, but, there. And then one of my DSDs was over there. And then another one was coming up, and it got faced with a snail tank with B2s with Haas in it. So it's like, yeah, no, come here. Because not only do I have a snail tank with armor-piercing shells, so I've got a snail tank with 8 dice and impact 4. But I got some Haas in there too, and you're going to get in range 1 to 2 range with them, and I'm just going to pick you apart with all the dice.
Yeah.
He tried to tactical strike me with his Iden. It didn't work so well. He got a bunch of, like, minor damage on my bees, which was a lot of fun. Like, the game was a blast. A squad of B1s just held him off, because I'm like, Kraken's going to use preservation protocol, so I'm going to give them impervious and disengage. So it was very much
Was this your second round?
yeah, second round he went, no, it was third round he went tactical strike.
Oh.
Because he tried to get me with that.
No, I meant second game.
Oh yeah, second game.
Yeah.
He tried to get me, like, waiting on his tac strike, but yeah, that happened. In the end, I killed most of his dewbacks. The B1s held off the dewbacks, and what they'd do is I played preservation protocols. So his dewback would attack mine, and I would go, okay, B1 survive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with the B1s. We're going to attack the dewback. Do nothing to it. I think they did roll a crit. So I think the B1s got 1 damage on a dewback. And then they moved to engage another dewback. So now, this dewback was out in the open with Magna Guards with my rocket launchers standing right there. So I'm like, yeah, no, that happened. Good strategy on my end, like, baiting in the dewbacks with all the things. That was the game. It was a blast because I got my DSD self-destruct off.
Nice.
So I got it in there. It self-destructed. It hit like 5 units. Yeah, it hit like 5 units, including Iden and Inferno Squad. So yeah, it dealt a ton of damage.
Nice.
And then my third round, my snail tank finished off Iden.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially what I did was, everyone's like expecting me to play Kraken as a linebacker. And I'm like, no. Kraken's going to sit back there. He's going to hang out. He's going to hang out there. Anything that gets in range of him, he's just going to shoot at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to let my snail tank kind of do its thing. Yeah. So that game ended very close. I don't count it as a win.
Mm-hmm.
The tournament counts it as a win. We were like literally millimeters out of range to tie. Like, he would have won if he had like millimeters.
Yep.
So I don't count that as a win. I won on victory points technically, but I want a rematch because I want a real game, not something where we win by millimeters.
Yeah.
That was fun. What about your second round?
My second round, I misdeployed Leia. I tend to do that. I like putting her on a high place so I can use her 1-pip right away. And I left her up there way too long. Like 2 rounds too long.
Oh, yeah.
Or a round. I left her on a round too long, and that made all the difference.
Did you put ascension cables on her?
No, I did after the tournament. I did.
Okay.
Because that's like a really good thing to have on her. But now I know.
Yeah. So
I also think I'm still working with the identity of what I want to play.
you like airspeeders.
I like my airspeeder and I like tauntauns. But then again, I want to experiment with some of the different units, like Pathfinders. I still have not gotten to play with some Pathfinders.
I would play with Pathfinders. Biston is apparently really strong based on... We'll get into the stats later.
Yeah.
But your second game, how did that... Just misdeployed Leia?
Misdeployed Leia, and I played against Empire all 3 rounds.
Yeah, I played against 2 Empire lists and a droid list.
I didn't play against... I played solely against Empire, which was not very fun.
Yeah. Third game, I struggled. Like, I didn't get completely tabled, just because I insisted on playing it out, which was fine. I lost, like, completely on objective. Still scored some victory points for the standings, but playing against a Maul list, I had no experience against DSDs, and I had no experience with DSDs. So it was kind of a DSD versus mall list, a mall DSD list. I'm like, I don't have any experience with this. So I lost that one pretty handily. The guy was good. He was a good player. I don't know. I was all right. The game got to me a little bit. I
Yeah.
think I was just tired.
Yeah.
But the guy was great to play against. Okay, your third game about the same.
Yeah. All 3 games were kind of about the same. They knew what my weakness was, and that was my core.
Yeah,
So that I couldn't cap objectives, and they just went for those.
yeah. Okay. Difference is that we're gonna bring to the next tournament. I'm gonna bring a completely different list.
I'm gonna bring a completely different list too.
Well, yours isn't gonna. You're just gonna add some tauntauns.
Maybe some Pathfinders.
Yeah, you're gonna add some different stuff. Okay. As far as like overall tournament goes, honestly, it was fun. The tables were set fantastic.
Oh, I love the tables.
Just enough terrain to make things interesting. Tables had a ton of variation. Games were all different, so that was a blast. Getting into like the statistical element, we're gonna kind of talk about the top 8 here. Okay, so Michael's in first with a triple staff list. Marshall's in second with a Han Solo, Cassian, K2SO, Chewbacca list with Wookiees.
Huh.
I like to see Wookiees. Joseph with an Op Vader list. Op Vader double dues. Josh Stroll in fourth with a Callus Krennic gunline list. Dylan in fifth with a, honestly, I think it's just an Op Luke list. That one is hard to pin down because it's Op Luke with double rebel officers with vigilance. Eric with a tactical droid, dual DSD AAT list. A lot of fun. I'm not going through the upgrades. All the lists are public, but honestly, I think you guys should build your own lists. Build your own lists, put your own upgrades on them. No, honestly, Magic has the problem with net decking, and I don't want Legion to have the same problem with net listing.
Yeah.
Metas kind of revolve around kind of what you see, but honestly, I don't want to see people building their lists off of something off of online.
Yeah.
Zach within seventh with a Cassian Jin list. It had an FD laser in it.
Ooh, laser cannons. I love laser cannons.
I love laser cannons. I'm glad to see him, and I'm glad to see one ranked in top 8.
I know, right?
It also had 2 emplacements. So it was dual vets with emplacements, Pathfinders, Commandos, and an FD laser cannon plus Jin and Cassian. And then you had Kevin Data, or as he knows on the 801st Legion Discord as Data. He ran an Op Vader list with shore troopers and mortars and sniper teams. We saw a lot of snipers.
Yeah. I saw a lot of Inferno Squad.
A lot of Infernos, a lot of dewbacks, a lot of snipers.
Yeah.
Which is fascinating. Because when we're talking top 8 lists, almost every list except for, I believe, 1 had snipers in it of some kind. 2, actually. Sorry. Everyone but 2 had snipers in it. Which is interesting when you consider, like, we're essentially wrapping around to an earlier meta.
Yeah, you were talking about this before we started.
When we were kind of...
We were discussing what to talk about.
Back office stuff, when we were kind of storyboarding this episode.
Yeah, when we were storyboarding this episode, we were talking about how we're kind of revolving back. We're developed almost a meta cycle.
I want to see if it progresses as a cycle, because if the meta cycle is as it goes, I can detail out this meta cycle for you. And we talked about it before. So what we are discounting is broken units in these metas. So like the Arc Star meta.
Yeah.
That I don't classify as an actual meta, because it was essentially the metas had to shift because of broken units. They didn't develop naturally.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at natural unit cycles, so the sniper cycle spawned the armor meta. The armor meta spawned the anti-armor meta. The anti-armor meta spawned the melee meta. The melee meta spawned the sniper meta.
Yep.
If that is the cycle, we're going to see some fascinating things as we're like, okay, does this new one bring back snipers any stronger?
Yeah.
Does this make armor units any stronger? So I kind of want to see if this meta like cycles like that, because cycling back to an old meta is fascinating.
Yeah.
The reason why we kind of discounted like the Taun meta is because they nerfed Tauns.
Yeah.
Broken builds do not define metas.
No, they don't.
They're the exception, not the rule. So you can't say, oh yeah, we can talk about it. We're like, oh yeah, in the middle of I think it was the armor meta when we saw the Arcstar lists.
Yeah.
In the middle of the armor meta, we saw the Arcstar lists, the Arcstar meta. Okay, cool. Yeah, we saw that happen. The Arcstar got fixed. That was it.
Yep.
What we didn't see at this tournament, as far as like what we saw at this tournament, we saw a lot of Empire.
And there was a lot of Empire.
A lot of Empire and a lot of droids.
Yep.
Rebels always had their place. Rebels always do their thing. No Gar.
No Gar.
Barely. Well, okay, so there was a couple of Gar lists, but no Gar placing very high. Like we're talking no Gar in the top 8.
Yeah.
I think this wraps around to like where the meta is at, the recent points adjustments, and we're still like reeling from that. Empire got really strong. We said this at the game day. Empire is going to dominate this meta.
Yeah, their buffs were a little heavy-handed.
Yeah, it's because everything is so cheap now. You said it. You shouldn't be able to build a armor list, like a list with multiple heavy commanders and operatives, and still have 10, 11x.
Yeah.
Same with the droids. You shouldn't be able to run a Maul list with 13x.
Yeah, no. In order for me as a role player to have 11 acts, I have to not take any armor.
Yeah. So there's that. Everything is so cheap for droids and Empire. And that kind of makes sense. Like droids, you're supposed to have cheap units. So I think droids you're always going to see high activations. But they're going to be weaker units overall. I think DSD's kind of miffed that a little bit.
Yep.
DSD's like is another exception to the rule. We're in a sniper meta. DSDs are the exception. They have range 4 that kind of act as the... Okay, this is interesting, because if we're talking list metas, which we kind of are here, okay, and this is kind of our opinion, we're probably wrong on a lot of this, but
I agree.
But I like to overanalyze, so this is kind of where I'm going with this. I think DSDs fit with the sniper meta, because this isn't just a sniper meta. This is a long-range meta.
I think I'll have to agree with you on that, because a lot of times... And personal experience.
Whereas, I think you're about to talk about this, but before engagements were dominated by range 2 to 3.
Yeah.
We have moved into a meta where the range is dominated by 4 to 5.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
DSD's 4. All the guns that people are taking on their stuff is because they have range 4.
Yep.
We are being dominated by 2 list styles. Melee and range. We're either seeing long range with range 3 to 4 or melee lists.
Yeah. I kind of agree with that.
Yeah.
I did notice, there was one thing that I noticed at the tournament. A lot of times, I didn't do very well, but I did notice people's strategies change. When I would 1-pip Leia their strike teams, their whole strategy would change.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of times, that 2 damage is usually enough to wipe a strike team.
Oh, yeah, especially because doesn't Leia have, like, sharpshooter too?
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're like, no cover, that's the strike team's worst nightmare. No cover, damage to them.
Yeah.
And that's why Kraken was so good. And that's why I kind of used Kraken as a piece where he'd just move into range 3 of those snipers and just pick off the snipers. Because, come on, sharpshooter 2 black, pierce 1.
Yeah.
You're killing at least one of them.
Yeah.
As far as it goes, yeah, us being dominated by this, like, interesting double build, which every meta is going to have 2 builds that dominate. And then the, like, weird outliers that do really well. Like, I think the winners of this were the weird outliers. I think the weird outliers could capitalize on the fact that they're playing against this meta. Because at the top, we're only seeing, like, a couple real ranged lists. A lot of them are melee lists. So we're cycling out of a melee meta into a range meta.
Yeah.
And that's just local. I'm not talking like this might be nationwide, but most likely local. Like we're talking what we saw at this tournament.
Yeah.
Dominated by range 3 to 4 engagements. Which threw off a lot of people when you bring like heavy armor into the mix. Honestly, okay, so I want to talk about some changes that need to take place. We are coming up on erratas. And I know this because we are going to see erratas for the
Shadow Collective.
They're going to have to release an errata with these new keywords. With this, there could be a point where they take some time and adjust some points.
Yeah.
Because Shadow Collective is going to change everything.
It's going to shake up the meta. Like,
yeah.
I know we just talked about a meta cycle. Shadow Collective is going to take that and throw it out the window.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. Because if Legion gets into this rut of cycles, it's going to get repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
Shadow Collective is going to break that up.
Yeah.
Because now we're having Maul in multiple factions. Now I don't want to turn this into a Shadow Collective episode. Now we're having like bounty hunters coming in multiple factions. You're like, okay, yeah, maybe Boba Fett doesn't fit in Empire. Maybe he fits in this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're seeing all these kind of things with like independent, these aims and dodges. Okay, some things that need to change. Vigilance is too cheap.
Yeah, it is. I think it needs 5 points.
I think 8 to 10 points is where it should be at.
Yeah, I agree.
Honestly, I saw this talking about in Discord, like in the Discord. It's way too cheap. Why take any other upgrade?
Yeah.
DSDs need a point increase.
Mm-hmm.
Empire needs point increases.
They need point increases across the board.
Not
across the
not across the board, but like in certain places.
Mm-hmm.
I would say like it's commanders are too cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Its commanders are too cheap, and its armor is too cheap. Well, armor not so much.
Mm-hmm.
ATSD is an ATSD. I think it should be cheap. Droids, DSD increase, maybe some commander increases. I think the big thing that needs to shift should be the cost of upgrades.
Yeah.
Because, for instance, here's something fascinating we saw. Droids taking upgrades on their B1s. B1s weren't just fodder. And we saw that where like they got the unit upgrades, and so we saw like the B1s taking their range 1 to 4 gun.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's good. I think we're seeing those B1 increases, B1s being utilized for other things. With that, I think that there's some shifts that need to happen there with upgrades. I don't think it's major shifts. Like, droids are in a good place. I'm going to say this. As far as it goes, from what I've seen with this tournament, droids are in a good place. The only thing that needs to be shifted with the droids is the DSDs.
Yeah.
That is the only thing that made droids bad. Because suddenly you have 60 cost units that are they're so cheap and they're so dominant.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the DSD itself doesn't need a point increase. Maybe just the ion gun needs a point increase.
Mm-hmm.
But we said that already.
Yeah.
We talked about how we're retreading a lot of water here.
Yep.
Because we don't have the complete data set from the entire tournament. We're kind of looking at the top placements. Because honestly, yeah, gathering this data has been a beast and a half. Because I have to put them all in manually.
Mm-hmm.
That's because there are so many lists using so many different templates.
Yeah.
Because honestly, the organizers were great. I think what they should do is for the next tournament, be nice. I'm like, okay, this isn't on the tournament organizers. This like they're newer to the tournament organizing thing. They did great for an early like big tournament.
Mm-hmm.
I would say all they need to shift is just have a set template where you go, okay, you are going to use this template when you submit your list.
Yeah.
Cool. Whether it's Army Builder, whether it's Battle Scribe, you're just going to say, okay, you're going to use this template.
Yep.
It doesn't change too much, but it makes a easy way to gather data, a faster way to gather data, because turnaround time for this kind of data sets would be a lot nicer and the community could learn a lot.
Yep.
Other than that, okay, we talked point increases. I mean, we're kind of running a shorter episode here.
Yeah.
That's on purpose. You know, we expected to have the data together, but it's been just a beast and a half to collect. So honestly, once again, would like to thank the tournament organizers.
Yeah.
Overall, this tournament was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm glad to see so many new people coming up from so many different places. I'm glad to see like our community rise to this and get a tournament where we sell out the tournament space.
Yeah. Like, we haven't done that in a while. Like, the last time I think was
Before
the Utah Open back in January of 2020.
Oh, was that an open?
I thought it
I
was.
thought it was just a Legion tournament.
Maybe it was just a Legion tournament.
We haven't had like an actual open, and like I think it was like they called it an open, but we haven't seen something that feels like an open.
Yeah, something that's official.
I love to see us taking this, and the fact that the tournament sold out.
Yeah.
We filled all 30 slots. I think we have 32 in the tournament, so we overpacked this thing.
Yeah.
It's great for the Legion community. We're showing growth.
Yeah.
I think all that's left to rise in the community is, of course, more content creators.
Yep.
We suck at this. I'm not going to lie. We suck at this. We do this on a shoestring budget. We do this on our own, off the top of our heads. So I'm very much like, I would love to see more community content. I would love to see games getting streamed.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see more out of this community, personally. I love the Legion community, and I'm glad to be a part of it. I am glad it's growing like it is, and that we survived the pandemic, guys. I would say this is the first tournament out of the pandemic. We have passed the dark ages for this community. I'm glad to see so much more. And of course, thank you to the 801st Legion for hosting.
Yeah.
Josh, Matt, Marshall, all of you guys that made this tournament possible. Thank you so much. And thank you again to Paragon.
Yeah.
They're friends of the community. They hosted the 801st Legion. Guys over at Demo are fantastic. Glad to get some more spaces. Thank you to all of them, and thank you for hosting this tournament. I think that's all we've got for you guys this week.
Yeah.
I'm your host, Isaiah,
I'm Chris.
and we're logging out.